Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I know I've been missing in action for a while. That's mostly because I've been trying to do some cleaning and purging in my craft room, something that's been on my mind for quite some time now. And I'm still not finished, but I thought I'd take a break. And during my treasure hunt, I discovered this piece that I did. I think it was about a year ago maybe. And I didn't like the way it turned out. It is some linen that I put inside of a wooden embroidery hoop. And I used a stencil with a dragonfly. You can still pretty much see the remnants of it. I used a paste, a colored paste, and so it's raised. You can feel it. And I just didn't like the way it turned out. So I gessoed it. And I don't care that some of the color is still showing through. I just wanted the gesso to be the primer for what I'm going to do next. I just want to redo it. I like the idea. I just didn't like the way it turned out or the colors. And here's a picture of what it looked like. And I will have a link to the video of what I did the first time down at the bottom of the video in the description area if you're interested. So let me just show you a picture of what it looked like before today. When it comes to mixed media, I feel like I'm constantly learning. I'm sure there are many of you that have the same feeling. But the first thing I want to do is add a little more texture in the background. I don't have a lot of background, but I do love a crackle texture. So I am going to take this crackled texture paste I have from this particular one is from WENDY VECCHI and made by Dreamweaver Stencils. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of that around the edges, and I'm going to get a very small spatula to do that. You can also use your finger, which I might end up doing. I'm not real sure what I'm going to do here. I just want to get some crackle texture in here, and just to bring a little more interest to the bare background that I feel this is portraying. And also, as you probably already know, the thicker you spread the crackled paste, the wider the cracks will be, and the thinner you spread it, the finer the cracks will be. So I'm just putting it on in a few different areas. In some cases I'm covering up a little bit of what I stenciled, but that's okay. I've got to move my flowers out of here. If you had something like this and you wanted to remove the flowers, I actually glued these down with hot glue. And all you need to do is take your heat gun, your heat tool, and kind of reheat it, and it'll melt that that glue very easily, and then you can remove it. You can remove the flowers without doing much damage. And as long as you're going to put them back in about the same place, you'll cover up any spots or areas that may have become discolored just from using it. So let me go ahead and speed up the video a little bit here, and so we can move on to the next segment. Okay, I sat this aside to dry actually overnight, which isn't necessary. I just, it was the end of the day, so it has some good crackle going on here, you can see. And I think that's going to add some nice texture to this piece. The first thing I want to do is use my Vivid Ultra Metallics. This is Daffodil. And I've got just a lid from ice cream here. I'm just going to put a little bit on here. And I want to use a stiff brush, but I want to wet it first. So I've got some water here. Any mixed media, this is called mixed media brush. Any brush that has a little bit of stiffness to it will allow you to get the paint down into the nooks and crannies instead of allowing the paint to just cover it up. So I'm going to pretty much stay off to the center. I'm not trying to make a complete perfect circle. I'm just going to, as you can see, I'm just kind of scrubbing the color down in there. And I don't care, like I said, I'm not trying to make the circle perfect because I don't think anything is perfect in mixed media. So I'll let that dry and I'll come back with another color. Okay, now I've got another bottle of Vivid Ultra Metallics. These are really nice paints. And this one is Black Cherry. It is a gorgeous color. And I'm going to add a little bit more to my palette here. Look how pretty that color is. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love that color. Anyway, I'm going to rinse my brush out, but I've left some water in it. And once again, I'm going to do a little mixing here. And I'll start adding this. I'm going to have to pick up my flowers here, I think, but I really don't care if I get any on them anyway. But isn't that a gorgeous color? The really nice thing I like about this is that you can see the color variation. You can still see the yellow coming through, but it's making a new color. Let me see if I can get a close-up for you. Almost a peachy color. Really, really gorgeous colors. And so I'm just going to keep adding this around. I think I'll color these beads while I'm at it. And just remember, if you get too much color anywhere, you can wipe it off with a paper towel or your rag or even a baby wipe. But once this paint is dry, it is permanent. But like any other paint, if you don't like something that happened, you can certainly paint over it. So there's always something that you can do to change it. Okay, I used my heat tool to dry this, and off camera I didn't like the way it was still pretty pale around the edges, so I used my black cherry and watered it down a little bit and got the color more around the edges to deepen it, because I have a plan and let's hope it works. But I needed the color to be a little bit deeper. So now what I want to do is mix up some colors for my leaves. So I've got moss green and Douglas fir, and we'll see how those go together. And again, I'm just going to, I think I have to open that one. This one is Douglas fir. It's a nice dark green. And I do have to open this bottle. Okay, I'm just going to put the two colors together down on my palette and sort of mix them as I go. And then I'm using a blank piece of paper just to protect the surface where I painted it with the black cherry. It doesn't matter if you get any on the on that surface. It's not supposed to be perfect. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to use my heat tool to try and speed the drying time. Okay, so I had a little bit of the green mixture on my palette here, and I added some water to it, mixed it up, and just did a few splashes. And that was mostly, I did that just because I think I had touched the canvas with my wet green fingers and left a few places. And so I thought, well, let's make it look like it's supposed to be there. So that's all you need to do. Let me dry that real quick, and I'll come back with the next step. Okay, let me just show you a close-up of those green splotches. They're just tiny little green splotches. Um, I didn't go overboard, so it's just enough to have the color, have that little bit of splash of color throughout. Now I'm going to use some burnt umber, vivid metallic, and I want to define the dragonfly just a little bit. So I'm going to use the burnt umber to define the body. And I'm going to add just a little bit of that color onto my palette. Now, if the paint on your palette is dry, you don't have to worry about it mixing in with anything else. So I'm going to take my soft brush again and get that green color out. I'm just going to fill in the area of the dragonfly body simply to allow it to be more noticeable. And I'm turning the canvas as I work because I find it easier to do a pulling motion with my brush. I can see what I'm doing. And now I'm using up the rest of the paint on my palette to just add that color to the wood portion of the embroidery hoop. Now I'm going to use some of the Bolivian Blue Vivid Ultra Metallic, and I'm going to do the same to outline the wings area. And I'll go ahead and put this in fast forward since it's pretty similar to what I did with the body of the dragonfly. Here you'll see me using a damp baby wipe to straighten the lines and to also separate those areas where the paint may have run together. Okay, I'm going to use some of my Radiant Rain dabbers from ColourArte. This one is Plumeria. I'm thinking this might make these flowers prettier. And I do want to wet the flowers, and the Vivid Ultra Metallics will not be affected by any water that I spray on it, but I do want to kind of wet them a little bit so that this color will kind of run and bleed a little easier. And let me get this color started. There we go. And you'll see how the color is just blending all through there now really nicely. And then I've got another one of these over here. Let me give it a little spritz on here. And I'll do the same thing. You can always take the dabber off and use a paintbrush, but the only reason I'm not using a spray, if I can get away with it, is because I really want to keep the color only where I put it and not, just go wildly all over the place because I'm spraying. Now I'm really trying to saturate these flowers with the color concentrate. And of course by wetting them first it will help the color flow. And then next I'm going to use the Mediterranean Blue, and you need to tap the dabber bottle onto the mat to get it started. Since I squeezed some of the color onto my mat, I'm just using my paintbrush to pick it up and apply the color that way. Now, unlike me, if you're starting from scratch, you can color these flowers before you glue them to the canvas, and then it would be much easier to use your dabbers or even spray the flowers with color mist without any problem. You can also take the top off your dabber or spray bottle and just dip your brush into the color and brush it on as you've just seen me doing. By the way, if your colors are too dark, you can dilute it simply by spraying it with water again. Now the flowers are very wet, and so while I use my heat tool to dry them, I also carefully fluffed them up and manipulated them into the shape that I wanted. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow rose to these roses. I think they're too dark, and I want to bring out this orangey color in here. So I've already sprayed them with a little bit of water, and I'll just add some of that lighter color back in. I think it will add a little bit of warmth to the flowers. And then I think I need to add some color back into this butterfly. So I first misted it with water and then added some Plumeria Radiant Rains by dabbing the color onto the wings. Then I added some more of the yellow rose to portions of the wings just to give a variety of color. Okay, so I think it's blending in a little bit too much with the background, so let's add some blue. And this once again is the Mediterranean blue here. Okay, my flowers are still a little damp. They're getting dry, but what I want to do is add some glitz, and I've gone through my stash and I found these Suze Weinberg Bedazzles. I also found a jar of mini glass beads, and this one is from Judi-Kins. There's little turquoise, or they're called metallic jade glass beads. And I'm going to mix them up in some clear drying glue. I've got this one from Paper Studio, so it's real easy to find. And I've used it before. It's a little bit on the thick side, so it makes it really good for what we're going to do with it. I'm just going to squeeze out a pretty good sized puddle. And I'm pretty sure you won't be able to see it on the mat until I start adding things to it. But I'm going to start adding the beads and bedazzles to it. And then I'm going to spread it all around. And they're the tiniest little beads here, I got to tell you. But I'm just going to mix it up, and after I get it the way I want it, I'm going to start adding it in places around the canvas. So I'll go ahead and speed up the video and let you watch. Now my beads aren't dry, but I don't have any particularly on my Dragonfly, so I'm going to work around it. And I'm going to use this vintage gold metallic wax from Art Alchemy, which is a Finnabar product. And you can use your finger. I also have this teeny tiny little brush that I sometimes use. The best thing to do is to get some on the brush and then try and scratch off most of it, or rub off most of it, because you really only want to hit the very top of the stenciling here, so we can bring out that design in the Dragonfly again. See if I can do it like this. I kind of like to do the dragging motion. I think you get a little bit more coverage. You don't want to pounce because especially with a brush, because it'll go in between the erased areas. So just continue adding the gold wax until you like the result. And as you can see, I'm also going to add the gold metallic to the body of the dragonfly. Okay, I think we're about finished. So I'll let this dry, and then I will come back. I'll take some photos after everything's dry and post them at the end of the video. Well, now that my flowers are completely dry, I decided to add some of that same gold metallic wax to the flowers. This will add a gilt look to the petals and really bring out the beautiful colors on them. And as I said, I will take some close-up photos to share at the end of the video. And here are some photos. This first one is a before and after. Now the first one isn't terrible, but I really do like the brilliance of the colors I achieved in my redo. If you are interested in seeing the first video, I have posted a link in the description area below this video. I want to also thank you so much for watching. Without your support, this channel would not be possible. For more inspiration, you can find me on these social media links. If you enjoyed today's project video, please give me a thumbs up, and I hope you will consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and always take time to play.